Okay, sure.
Okay, for some reason na-cut yung sinasabi natin yan. No, the context essentially was this argument that if you are tougher in asserting our own rights, we may risk massive economic relations with China. And what we have been saying is that there's no evidence to back that up, because if you look at trade linkages between the Philippines and China, actually it has consistently increased over the decades, over the past decade. So you can clearly see here, right, the trade from 2010 to 2019 through Aquino all the way to pre-pandemic era, it increased consistently. So data after data shows that it looks like when it comes to bilateral trade relations, which by the way increasingly benefits China more than us, they're far more exporting to us than us exporting. They're earning way more than from us than we from the. It looks like it's almost agnostic. It's geopolitically agnostic. It is not sensitive to any kind of the geopolitical shock. So this whole myth that if you're nice to China, you'll get huge investments, which is the next question. Okay, trade. It looks like it's not. There's no strong correlation whatsoever with geopolitics. Investment, maybe there's some correlation. But Duterte was super nice to them and yet got no high-quality, big-ticket infrastructure investments. Where is the Bandung-Jakarta Railway Project? Where is the Mindanao Railway Project? Like our version of Bandung-Jakarta. Where's the Mindanao Railway? Where's the Clark Railway Project? None of them came in. And please don't talk about some small bridge that enrich a few Chinese contractors in there somewhere in, I don't know, Pasay, whatever. That's not a big-ticket infrastructure project. Please increase. Medyo taas nyo naman yung standards. So my point, and your point is, the hypocrisy of this argument is that when it comes to United States, U.S. is actually a big source of trade and investment and jobs, and yet they're not worried when Duterte attacked them and said, let's end our alliance with you. Can you expound on that?
Okay, I'll go back yung point na to. No? Kasi the biggest investor in ASEAN, FDIs, is the United States, right? It's not China. So if we are concerned, yung argument that we should be nice to countries that have economic leverage over us, why doesn't that apply toward the United States? No, the United States is a source of many high-paying, high-quality jobs here in the Philippines. No, a lot of itong mga multinational companies ng BPO industry, which is one of the biggest sectors in the Philippine economy, these are American companies. And yet we weren't worried when during the Duterte administration, Duterte was flat out making very ridiculous, statements like, it's the Philippines, Russia, and China against the world. We are turning away from the United States. Kung ikaw talaga, you love the Philippines and you want us to have good relations with all of our important economic partners, then why is it that they are not calling for that kind of restraint when it comes to the US or to Japan? Parang hindi eh. And in fact, it is even the opposite. Not only don't they care about it, they will actively agitate against the United States. Talagang, di ba, that is really what a lot of the Duterte frankly, the Duterte supporters right now are doing. Talagang very anti-US. But my point is, what benefit does it give the Philippines when you do that? Di ba? So,
and that's where my point comes in. Maybe they're indirectly saying that, well, US is a democracy. I mean, of course, we can have a debate about horrible interventions. I'm saying, because US is a democracy, they're willing to tolerate pushback by the Philippines. But the other one is a dictatorship. So like a gangster, you don't follow them, there's going to be consequences, my friend. You know what I'm saying? Like, so they're actually contributing to otherization of China. I mean, Duterte also kept on doing that. Oh, if we assert our West Philippine Sea, they will go to war to us. And yung mga Chinese like, no, we're not like that. We're not going to invade you for disagreement. We have disagreement with Vietnam. We have
Kasi, I mean, if we're being realistic about it,
bad name to China, these propagandist people, yeah.
If we're being realistic about it, you showed the graph na parang agnostic nga to geopolitical situation yung economic footprint ng China with the Philippines, yung bilateral trade natin. I think respetuhin naman natin yung Philippines na the reason why Chinese businesses do business here in the Philippines is because there's money to be made. Right? There is an economic logic to that. And that economic logic is independent ng policy ng administration. It's not as if China is only investing in the Philippines because the Duterte family has good relations with them. That's a preposterous argument that they're only investing here if they have good relations with the current president. Ganun ka-importante ang presidente ng Pilipinas that the market will move with the president? I don't think so. That's very
That's
unlikely.
what Marcos says, right? I need to travel around the world, sell the country, and then bumaba pa yung FDI after all his Magellan Jr.
That's another topic.
No, but that's my point eh. Yun ang unit team nila na both of them have this myth of the great
Yeah,
leader going there and moving global markets. Well, guess what? It's a scam. It doesn't work that way.
yeah,
Think, I advise Wall Street, hedge funds, whatever, right? They're not idiots. They have their own research team. They talk to people like
exactly.
me who know what's happening. You think they're gonna listen to a speech by BBM and Digong and make this? You think Chinese businessmen are just gonna listen to some incoherent speech by Digong and decide they're gonna go? It doesn't work that way. It's far more complicated. Let's respect the businessmen. They're not idiots. They're
Exactly.
smart people. Oh, last point. Sorry if ever lang nawala. You were saying on the part of Sara Duterte, her silence was something dangerous, right? Because it may create some perverse expectations by China. And I said it may even risk encouraging China to interfere in domestic affairs because they may think, I'm not saying that's the case, but they may think that they may have their person here in the Philippines ahead of 2028 election.
They may get some ideas na meron silang Manchurian candidate dito here in the Philippines, which is a very valid problem. Now, going back to yung nasabi ko before we got cut off, no, that whatever Sara Duterte is doing right now, it sets the tone. If eventually she becomes president, no, which is her goal anyway, it sets the tone for what kind of president she's going to be, right? On the one hand, you have her talking all about very vocally on itong NTF CAC and talking about the Afghan refugee issue being requested na i-accept ng Philippines by the United States. So she has proven na she can actually talk about defense affairs and she can expend political capital to make her thoughts known about the topic. And that's why the absence of any of her positions on the South China Sea issue is damaging to the Philippines, frankly. Ngayon, there are two approaches to this. I would respect her if she just kept a dignified silence on this issue, no? Na she doesn't talk about any security issue out of deference to the president. Which was, if you look at it, to be fair, during the last administration, si Vice President Leni Robredo had the same approach when it comes to Duterte's foreign policy. Even if talagang there were at times talagang statements like the Philippines will break ties with the United States, we moved to terminate the visiting forces agreement, although hindi yun nangyari in the end. All of those are very threatening things, and yet you never hear VP Lenny talk about all of those things. So I think yung ganung decorum should be established among vice presidents, especially one that would like to become president in the future. She should have that decorum. Now, if she does want to insist on talking about defense and security issues, then please talk about things that matter from on a macro level perspective sa Pilipinas. Because right now, what she's doing is she's messaging China that they can distract the Philippines with all these domestic political disputes, and so that the country can care less about the West Philippine Sea issue, that we are divided amongst ourselves. And that's a very wrong messaging to China. Because right now, yung ginagawa niya that she is being quiet, regardless ng nangyayari on the ground, na water cannon na tayo, involving the AFP Chief of Staff, wala pa rin siyang statement, you're actually sending a message to China, hey, China, I have your back, regardless of what you do. And that's a wrong message to send to China. In fact, if you want to have a genuinely independent foreign policy, what you should message to China is tit for tat. I will behave accordingly in response to how you behave to me. That is how we should behave at the world stage level. We don't reciprocate things na hindi naman binibigay sa atin ng China, no? This is yung ginagawa ng mga Duterte at the moment to China really is yung etong unreciprocated love, no? That's really what it is, cheesy as it sounds, no? Hindi binabalik ang pagmamahal ng mga Duterte sa China. China has not reciprocated that in investments, obviously not in military postures.
Or let me correct you, maybe not reciprocated to the nation of the Philippines, but maybe on certain other level there was a reciprocation we're not aware of. I'm just saying.
Which is all the more a shame, right? If it's only
Exactly,
targeted, right? China, and I would like to address that point. China likes to tout that, no, na parang we have made many investments in Mindanao, etc. Pero yun nga yung point eh. Kaya nga tignan mo itong coalition ni Marcos ngayon, many of whom are Luzon people, they that don't benefit from all these China investments kasi nga China is only rewarding yung mga friendly voices sa kanya in the Philippines. So because of that strategy, very transactional approach ng China, it cannot win the entire Philippines over, right? So what does it tell you about the China policy sa Philippines? That China policy in the Philippines ultimately requires on divide and conquer, right? Because China knows that it cannot win the public as a whole, no? Talagang yung mga public opinion polls repeatedly tell you that
Therefore,
China is
co-optation.
yeah,
Target co-optation, yeah.
yeah. So that already tells us a lot about the nature of Chinese economic activity here in the Philippines. Ngayon, we don't need to go to war with them and all these really ridiculous escalatory actions that are being suggested by some people that na yun daw yung mangyayari if we stop cooperating with China and so forth. That's not really going to happen. And I do think that fundamentally, if we have to stand up to China, we have to start doing it now. Because yung credible deterrence, it doesn't happen overnight. It's a result of repeated behavior. And we have to do it now. And to be frank, I think, for example, there were some people who were raising na we should desecuritize this issue, right? With China, we should maintain good relations with them. Some of them coming onto TV. Government officials in the Philippines are not stupid. It's not that easy, no? Kung ganun siya kadali, that you just have good relations with China and suddenly all of our problems with them are going to be resolved, then my goodness, we should have had peaceful relations with China since 2016, but we haven't, no? 2019 to 2021, even Duterte admitted that there were some security concerns with China. And what does it tell you, no? Just for the viewer, simply put, yung problems natin with China are structural, not cyclical. Kasi kung cyclical lang yan, it can be resolved by goodwill. It can be resolved by changing the policy of the administration. Nakita na nga natin magpalit ka ng policy, Duterte to Marcos, Aquino to Duterte, you still face the same things, no? Harassment in the West Philippine Sea, some dubious Chinese innocent passage malapit sa Cebu, sorry, not Cebu, sa Sulu, and also in the Benham Rice, no, which is a recently claimed legally claimed Philippine area as well. So what does that tell you? I think we need to have a very consistent foreign policy, and it needs to be a product of concerted, deliberate defense and security effort. We cannot turn away from these problems. Hindi ako agree dyan sa narrative na yan na you just need to be friendly with them. Somehow, all of our problems will be resolved. That is a very ridiculous approach to foreign policy.
And the question is, okay, operationally, what are you saying? Let's just give away Second Thomas Show. Let's just get
exactly.
you push them. What are you exactly saying here? They cannot say that. No, so don't give me motherhood statement. Motherhood statement is not it's not a national security doctrine. It's just like saying, I mean, like the kind of enemies friend to all, enemy to none is pang tourism. That's the part of tourism should that cannot be a DFA slogan. It's a tourism slogan. All right. Thank you so much, Justin Bakisal, for that fantastic discussion. Really appreciate it. And looking forward for the rest of our gang to come together and discuss more of this. Salamat.
Salamat. And good night.